Hello everyone, we are joined here by Mr. Yali Rothenberg. He is the Accountant General at the Israeli Ministry of Finance. Welcome to PTI, sir. Mr. Rothenberg, let me begin by asking you about your visit to India. You are part of a very high-level delegation led by your country's finance minister. So if you could tell us what has been some of the engagements here in New Delhi and what's in store for the next 2 days.
Well, we came here to sign a mutual investment agreement, which is only the beginning of a process that we see going on ahead with India and supporting the mutual economic growth of both countries.
Okay, and I believe you landed early in the morning India time, and you must be very tired, but how has been your day so far in New Delhi, and what lies ahead in the coming 2 days?
Well, it's been very, very busy. We've been meeting very high officials here in India, including the Minister of Finance, the Minister of Commerce, and other officials. I've personally have been visiting in the metro here, and we have looking forward to very important high-level meetings in various locations in India, all around promoting mutual economic benefits, promoting investments in infrastructure, promoting the relative advantages that India can offer to Israel and vice versa.
So we're also meeting at a time when there has been a shooting in Jerusalem, and our heart goes out to the victims there. What is your sentiment right now, as you also heard about the news here in India?
Yeah, I know the bus stop, and I actually know the mother. The mother of one of my employees was actually killed in that attack. And this is an unfortunate reminder to all of us to avoid those extremists who do these inhumane acts, which are opposing all that we represent here in Israel and also in India. We are partners in that kind of relationship, and we think when we look at these things, we are reminded by other atrocities which have recently happened in Israel around 2 years ago, and we have a call to fight these things for the betterment of humanity.
So India and Israel have signed a bilateral investment agreement, and Israel has become the first OECD country to do that. If you could tell us and our viewers what exactly this agreement will entail and what is in future when it comes to economic cooperation between India and Israel.
So this agreement lays a mutual infrastructure that supports and protects investments, gives clarity and understanding between the two countries of the processes by which we protect all these kind of investments. But this is not the end. This is just the beginning. We are looking forward to promoting other agreements with India. For example, we're looking at promoting a financial protocol within India. We have such protocol with other major countries also in this region. And through that protocol, for example, we can promote better financing for infrastructure projects in India, as an example, or other prospects. Israel has an edge in technological criteria, for example, other aspects that Israel can look forward to promote both together with Indian companies. And in that sense, Israel can generate growth that will bring India more prosperity, but also, obviously, to Israel.
Sir, talking about the future roadmap, besides this BIA, the bilateral investment agreement that's been signed today, very, very keen agreement that has been signed between the two countries. But in terms of giving more, structured form to it. For example, we just got to know about that the UPI agreement between the two countries. If you could just shed a light, when is it expected that the common currency thing between the two sides can be worked out, and what is the status of that particular project?
The UPI agreement, as is led by the Bank of Israel, could be finalized in a matter of a few months. It's very short, and that could create a direct link between Israeli systems and Indian systems by which you can pay rupee in Israel or transfer rupee onto Israel. This is one example. We have other examples. And I think your viewers should remember that Israel has something to give, and for example, in technology, defense, which is a growth factor, but also infrastructure. Israel, much like India, is a fast-growing country with a young population, and we are lacking, despite us being a very high-income country, we're lacking the amount of capex, of capital formation in the economy because we are a young country. So in the coming 20 years, Israel will grow substantially. We're looking at investments into Israel of approximately over 10 years, just budget money, including the metro investment that we're doing, the big metro that we're doing in the Tel Aviv metropolitan area, which is going to be $200 billion. $200 billion will go just as budget money. On top of that will be all the various financing mechanisms like PPP projects that we're activating. We have about 35 active PPP projects, and which are in various tender statuses. So Israel will be very, very active, and going into Israel right now has a very good future onto it, a good growth prospectus, and good business to do in Israel, especially now.
Mr. Rothenberg, just three couple of follow-up questions. First, on the UPI, the currency agreement. So just lay this out for our viewers here, for possibly those who would like to travel to Israel in future and they want to make a payment. So if an Indian traveler goes to Israel, once this agreement kicks in, the UPI, and I think Massive it is called from your country, sir? The Bank of Israel?
The Bank of Israel is leading that project because the Bank of Israel is in charge on payment systems in Israel. Mm-hmm. And what we're told from them is that that will be possible possibly from the end of the first quarter of 2026, which is paying in local currency in Israel and receiving local currency in Israel through the UPI system.
And for those who are coming to India, will that, I mean, that should be...
It goes both ways, yeah.
So Israeli travelers, if they're coming to India, they would also be able to make the payment in their own local currency.
Exactly.
In India.
Yeah.
Okay. And coming about the budget plan that you mentioned, the figure that you mentioned, sir. I mean, if you could just give us some more clarity and understanding. So is that the number that you're mentioning is the budget laid out, or that's the budget outlay by the finance ministry for which period? I mean,
all right. So I just took budget money that is budgeted every year, and it's also indexed. So I'm being conservative here, just for transportation investment, and I added to it while the estimated cost of the metro project in Israel. I transferred it to dollars. It's approximately $200 billion in the coming 10 years. And when you look at infrastructure, you always look at a medium to long-term perspective. So when looking at Israel right now, this is the time to go into Israel into an investment, because that will go up. Israel is, as I mentioned, it's a growing country. We need more housing. We need more schools. We need more transportation. We're pushing massively into public transportation. All these things are happening right now in a high-income country that can pay its debts, that is, socially very, very independent. So I think it's an opportunity right now.
So, if I gather it right, the roadmap that Israel is laying is for itself, and the bilateral cooperation with various countries now, specifically with India, is Israel looking for potentially more? Greater cooperation and participation from India, both in terms of the investment and opportunities that
Indeed we do. We want Indian companies to go and participate in tenders, in public tenders in Israel, to offer themselves, providing that they have the right experience. And I think plenty of companies would have the right experience in such a big country like India, to go and participate in those tenders. We are desalinating over 70% of our water, and it will be 90% of our water. We're building power plants based on both natural gas, but also obviously photovoltaic plants. We're doing waste management facilities.
I'm sorry, which plant you mentioned?
Photovoltaic like electric. We are investing heavily in waste management facilities. Why? Because currently we are burying about 80% of our waste, which is unsustainable by us. So we have made all those decisions. This is aside from only transportation, and we're also in the process of building a new airport in Israel. All these projects are not some dream of someone. This is things that are happening. On top of this, take all the changes that have occurred in the Middle East just recently, geopolitically, and look at the prospects in the region, in the various forces that want to push forward towards growth and peace. And you add all these together and you have all these opportunities. I think people should be aware of these opportunities coming into Israel.
Mr. Rothenberg, you just mentioned about the new airport coming. I mean, if you could just give an understanding. So has the work begun? Has the tender been floated? And what is the status of this project?
The reason,
where exactly will come up?
Yeah, the government had decided on two new airports. Two new airports. One is in a place in Israel called Ramat David. The other one is Hatzerim, two separate places. And both are managed within a tender committee. And it's a long process, obviously, in these kind of projects, because you have to designate the land. You have to make all these decisions that are very professional about the aviation and so on. Mm-hmm. But all these things are going on in Israel. And this is on top of rails, on top of transportation, and everything else which I've mentioned.
Mr. Rothenberg, your country is floating global tenders. So are you looking forward for greater participation from the Indian companies when it comes to these tenders?
All our tenders are global. We obviously have criteria that have to do with experience. We have clauses that have to do with our national security. Mm-hmm. We have other clauses which protect the tender for the long term. Mm-hmm. But this is the way it's done globally these days. So we're following the global convention of how to do these kind of tenders.
One thing I gathered speaking to your colleague before we began the interview was that there's something called financial protocol that Israel has with many countries. If you could first tell us with which countries you have already established the set of financial protocols or the set of rules, as they're called, that allows a greater clarity in terms of the banks, the two sides, and lending capabilities. So, and in the future roadmap of India-Israel economic cooperation, are we seeing a financial protocol being eventually signed with India?
This is our aim. Let's say, for example, that you would want to bring an Israeli technology, could be some IP technology, could be some kind of an investment that Israel has a relative advantage in, but the buyer wants to have some kind of a loan attached to it because he doesn't want to pay a one step. But the seller on the Israeli side wants to see the money faster than the, 15, 20-year loan. So how do you bridge these gaps without taking the buyer's credit? For that, we've established that kind of a mechanism by which both governments provide several guarantees in the process. And with that, with signing that, we are suggesting, or we are offering the public, the buyers and sellers from both sides, a mechanism like a very clear path mechanism, because we have designated banks within the protocol, by which to follow and get that access to a very clear financing mechanism. And we have the biggest one we have is with China, with over the $2.5 billion of investments and transactions which have been made through the protocol.
The U.S. administration has imposed 50% tariffs on India. How does Israel look at it? What is the Israel view of Washington's slapping 50% tariff on New Delhi? If you could share your views, sir.
Well, I think these tariffs have been some kind of a negotiation mechanism between countries, as obviously have been pushed forward. And I've been following and saw that it's has been of some kind of a discontent, obviously, by India with this tariff. And I believe that negotiation, in that sense, is in the making. So that might not be the final line of negotiation, but this is a matter of relative value in those in tariffs. And as you know, when you change tariffs, you might be more expensive to one country, but you might be less expensive to the other one. So the whole world is changing in that matter, and that's a new normal. So as in Israel perspective, for example, we're a small and open economy, so we have to adjust.
Okay. But India and Israel are negotiating on FTA. If you could give us any understanding on the FTA between India and Israel, what is the status of that?
So I'm not going to go into the details because I believe it's in the midst of negotiation. But I trust both the Indian side and the Israeli side will do their best to finalize. I think it can be finalized in a very short period of time, and it's going to be for the mutual benefit of both countries.
So when you say short period of time, 1 year?
You obviously can't timeline this because that would suggest I can, give specifically the Indian government a timeline, which I don't want to do that.
The Israel-Hamas war has now been waging for nearly 2 years, and from you, we would like to know, Mr. Rothenberg, what has been the economic impact of that war? If you could give us an understanding in terms of the burden or the challenges that your country has faced economically as of now and going forward.
So I think one has to make a distinction between the war itself and what's happening within the war, which has changed the Middle East for the better, and the economic impact. The economic impact on Israel because of the war has been very limited. For example, 2024 over 2023, our income from taxes had increased by 10.5%. This year to date, our income from taxes had increased by around 17%. So we see some of the biggest exits of Israeli companies, which are taxable also in Israel, have been there since the war or during the war. So the impact of the war on the Israeli economy, despite it was not negligible, was pretty small, and we have been maintaining, for example, budget deficits of around 5%. This year's 2025 budget deficit is estimated to be around 5%, even during the war. This is only possible because of the level of activity of the economy. We've seen a rebound in fast metrics like credit card consumption in Israel. The Israeli stock market has been over 28% year to date. That's way above other indices around the world. 28% since year to date. That's well above other indices around the world. So all in all, despite there is an impact, but the impact is limited because of the various growth factors which I've mentioned. And I'm going to say them again. We have very strong sustainable energy because of the gas reserves. So the inflation effect on Israel has been relatively to other countries very low. We have the high-tech sector, which is booming in Israel, even right now during the war, and supported by the facts of various exits, FDI investments. We're a net lender to the world. We have over $240 billion of net lending, supported by huge reserves of billions of those dollars in the Bank of Israel. And we have the defense tech industries, which are booming. This is on top of the infrastructure story in Israel. So it's some kind of the Israeli story or miracle, and that's the sum of the effect. And this is just, when looking at the region, one has to look not only at what's happening right now, but as I mentioned, on the future prospects.
So how does the prospect Israel's prospect with India look, given the fact that you are still in the middle of a war? How do you see things playing out when it comes to economic cooperation with India?
Okay,
Despite all the challenges.
A war is a headline, but look what's happened in the region. Hezbollah, Lebanon is going through a very major change right now. Only a few days ago, there was a vote in the Lebanese government to dismantle or disarm Hezbollah. Hezbollah is a major recognized terrorist organization, which had caused major damages to Israel. And today, Lebanon is on the process of being on a new story, a very, very promising story. This happened because it's a big change, also geopolitically. The change in Syria is massive in that sense. What happened with the strikes on Iran, which have been done both by Israel but also by the US, and really taking back in a serious manner its nuclear program, has been changing the whole story in the Middle East. So the Middle East, the geopolitical risk embedded in Israel has been decreasing. So I think this is something one has to see in the longer term and recognize that this is happening. So in that sense, Israel is not in the same risk that it was 2 years ago.
So you're saying your economy, as perhaps it would have been for any other economy of your size, had it been in the middle of two-front war, would have been far worse, but Israel has been able to manage? Is that what you're suggesting, sir?
I'm saying that the Middle East is changing for the better, and that's one achievement that the war had created, which was not expected by anybody. That's one thing.
You mean both the wars, the Hamas war as well as the Iran war?
Yeah, the whole war, which was on seven fronts, changed the Middle East because of the change of regime in Syria, because what happened what's happened with Hezbollah, because of the strike the damage we've done to the Iranian nuclear program, which is really a service to the world. And this is something that supports investment. With that, the Israeli economy has held in a very nice, good way during that, and as I mentioned before, with the increases in revenues from taxes and other aspects, and with a relatively good growth for those kind of risks that we've been handling.
Okay, so you're saying that if I had to give you in one word, sir, the impact of the war on the economy, how would you describe it for the Israeli economy?
So it has been very limited.
Limited, okay.
Yeah.
And the first fact that you mentioned, if you could just elaborate a bit, the income tax you said has been increased.
Yes.
What exactly?
Sorry for it's hot, so.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
What did it mean, sir? Like when you say economic income tax has increased, like.
When you take like a company that has revenues, so when you take revenues from the government, year over year, 2024 over 2023, had increased by 10.5%. When you take this year, 2025, year to date, over 2024, another increase up year to date by around 17%. This is only possible, this is above what we've budgeted. This is only possible because of the level of activity of the economy. Because government takes taxes off of the economy.
So you're saying domestically people are investing more?
Domestic, stock market, as I mentioned. Salary taxes, all avenues of revenues from the government have been performing well.
But did you face any other companies kind of folding out, leaving after the war or after October 7, 2023, many companies saying that they want to pull out of Israel because the volatile situation? Did it happen? Did your country have to face such a situation also?
We're facing companies forming into Israel. Sometimes there's a small story which takes the headlines, but it is not the main thing which is happening. What is happening right now is that you see the exits of major buyouts of companies like Wix, like Palo Alto, which bought CyberArk, and other companies' exits in massive, over around $57 billion of purchases of Israeli companies just in the past few months. So this is a story. And massive investments into Israel in establishing, for example, new centers like NVIDIA, which is exploring establishing a new center in Israel. So we hear all these news, both on the negative side, on the positive side, but overall the story is a story of resilience. And this is what one has to remember. Israel is a very, very resilient country.
Cities, sir, Mumbai and Ahmedabad, if you could share your plans. So what's in the waiting, sir?
We have very exciting meetings with very important people, individuals, both from the government sector and from the business sector. I'm not going to get into all the details for obvious reasons, but we're looking forward to all those meetings and to promoting our relations in India.
So will there be more signing of agreements during the course of the visit? Of course, the big one happened today, but in the next 2 days, are we expecting any more signing of the agreement elsewhere in the next two cities?
We're really expecting the furthering and development of the mutual growth and relationship between the two countries.
Mr. Rothenberg, thank you so much for your time, for talking to PTI, and we look forward to more interactions in future, and we wish you all the best for the remainder of your stay here in India. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Namaste.